Hey y'all, we're going to be talking today about, of course, Mayor Adams on some nonsense. We're going to be talking about Biden on some nonsense. We're going to be talking about probably, which I've been talking about over a few weeks now, some changes that are probably going to be happening to our sort of models in physics and cosmology, our models that we've been depending on for probably 100 years, changing the way that we view the universe, the way that we understand the universe, the way that gravity is working, and other concepts that we thought were ironclad seem to start to be eroding and changing as we begin to see further into our universe and into our galaxy with a whole lot more detail. And we're going to be talking about a whole lot of legal stuff going on with SAG-AFTRA, the Actors Union. All right, y'all? So stay tuned. It's a Social Millennial podcast. We out here. Y'all already know what it is. You feel me? Thank y'all for pulling up to the show for this week. This is in fact going to be the last show of the year. All right. I know we've got another week before Christmas week, basically. Well, not another week before Christmas week, but another week before it's just about Christmas. But you know, I want to get off a little early. I've got a lot of projects that I'm working on, some stuff that I really need to focus on, and it would be great to be able to get off production of this to sort of build up in the background, build up the back office, and then come back stronger, you feel me? Come back newer, brighter, you feel me, for 2024. So this will be the last episode that you will be seeing this mug and hearing this voice in this format until 2024. You will see the announcements as to when we will be returning. It will be in January, all right, y'all? But definitely stay tuned for that on our social medias. Again, at Social Millennial, at Social Millennial Pod, SocialMillenialpod. It's got to be spelled that way. At Social Millennial Pod on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook. We are not on X, formerly Twitter. You can be able to check out the socials. We'll be making announcements there as well. What up, y'all? For those of y'all who do not know about this podcast, if y'all are brand spanking new, or maybe if y'all forgot, there is a visual component to this podcast. If y'all are listening to it, we are on YouTube, again, at Social Millennial Pod. If you type that into the search bar of YouTube, you will find us. It will take you to us directly. So y'all could subscribe, like this video right now. If y'all are watching like this second, y'all don't got to get all the way in. We just need a few seconds for the views. We thank y'all so much for our support, for the support. If y'all want to listen a little further, y'all want to hear the stories, hear my opinions about things, definitely leave comments about what we're talking about, and maybe we can have a discussion in the comment section. We want to hear what y'all think about the podcast in the comment section on YouTube. Absolutely. If you are watching, we have an audio format for this podcast. It is exactly the same as the video that you're watching right now. We are, again, at Social Millennial Pod, or the Social Millennial Podcast. We are on YouTube podcasts, because I believe Google Podcasts has already folded into YouTube Music. So YouTube podcasts, you will be able to find us. You'll be able to find us on Apple Podcasts. You'll be able to find us on Spotify Podcasts. You'll be able to find us on Radio Public. I don't remember if Stitcher is still around. You will be able to find us on Pandora. Absolutely. Just look us up, and odds are the app or platform of your choice hosts us. If y'all want to listen to this podcast, or y'all are watching and maybe you're a little bit more old school, maybe you don't ascribe to any of these newfangled these newfangled media platforms, if you look down in the description of this YouTube video, or wherever you are listening to this, there will be a link that will take you to a homepage, basically a landing page that acts as our homepage, that has every single episode from when we first started up until now, and you'll be able to listen to it whenever you'd like. You can share it from there. In any episode, you can embed it. You can grab code and plop that player into wherever you want to pop it into, if you want to share it in that kind of way. But so in the description, you will either see the word homepage that you can tap on and click on, or you will see the word homepage, and under it will be a link, like a long link, a traditional www.https. So, you know, we're kind of serving everybody. And again, y'all, all of this content, Audio, visual is absolutely free. So please, whatever advertisements that you see on our pages or here on the audio, we are not receiving any funds from that at this point. Everything right now is free. So if y'all want to support us and support us for free, y'all need to give us a star review on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok, like our posts, like the memes, like the clips, like the entirety of the video, thumbs up it, like it on Spotify, like it on Apple, like it on whatever platform that y'all like to enjoy this podcast on. Just show us love on that platform. That's how you can directly support this project, directly support the vision for free, absolutely free. If y'all want to give a little bit more than just free and think that maybe we could benefit, and we can always benefit, but if you think we could benefit with some donations, maybe getting our resources greater, moving into a bigger studio, maybe doing a 3-camera setup where, soon I'm going to be able to go and there's a camera over there. You can absolutely check out our merch shop. There will be a link in the description of wherever you are, whether video or audio, and click on that and buy something. I mean, we've got pens, we've got simple things, pens, t-shirts, hoodies, tank tops. We've got some more interesting things like phone cases, tumblers, mugs, canvas paintings, banners, pillows. So just find something there. We even have children's clothes. So absolutely find something over there. If the user interface looks a little weird, or it seems like there's only one product on that homepage for our merch shop, there's like a drop down menu or menu bar right on top of the merchandise themselves where they're displayed. Just hit that arrow key and you will see in the drop down, click on any of those products that you'd like, and it will take you to our designs that you can purchase. We have a lot of sales going on. I believe right now it's 35% off everything coming into Christmas, and the prices will probably slash even deeper as we get closer, but definitely 35% off. Can't be beat. I mean, you're talking about $12 shirts, $14 shirts. Like, come on, y'all, pick it up. And listen, we like to pay it forward too. If y'all show your support in this kind of way, y'all decide not just to give your time, and not just to give your likes and your comments and your subscription, sort of subscription space, just tapping that subscribe button, tapping the follow button. And y'all see fit to also buy the merch, definitely put the merch on. Definitely take pictures of yourself. Take some selfies with that merch on. Display the merch. If it's a pillow, take a picture of the pillow. Tag us in it, and we will absolutely feature you in our Instagram stories, on our Facebook stories, on our Instagram reels, etc. We believe in paying it forward and saluting y'all who decide to support the vision. Now, let's get to it. Final episode of 2023. We've got some science. We're gonna start there because I know for the geeks out here, the nerds like me, you feel me? We're gonna hit the science first. We're gonna get through it. So then for the rest of y'all, we can get to the other stories. I've got about 4. We're gonna be moving a little bit more briskly for this episode. All right. So this is according to Futurism, and I feel like the screen is way too bright. Way too bright. Thank you so much. Maybe go even dimmer than that, because eye comfort shield is on. Come on, tablet. Stop acting. Stop being a weirdo. Right. Okay, we'll just do that. There we go. All right. Cool. Our galaxy. Yes, our galaxy. And then my definition. Yep, my definition's here. All right, cool. So according to Futurism, this is futurism.com, right? _byte. Headline reads, our galaxy appears to be in a huge empty void. Now, for almost a century, astronomers have been using the Hubble limiter constant to explain the accelerating expansion of the universe, an intrinsic piece of the puzzle that supports the Big Bang Theory. Now, for those who do not know, the Hubble limiter constant is the observation in physical cosmology that galaxies are moving away from Earth at speeds proportional to their distance. In other words, the farther they are, the faster they're moving away from us, right? So we're starting to view, as we're getting closer looks, more detailed looks into our galaxy and sort of celestial bodies and how they're moving and how gravity's working, we're starting to notice sort of something we're starting to notice how they're behaving to be weird. And they seem to be breaking this constant that we had set up previously, that springboards off of the Big Bang Theory and this idea of expansion. But actual observations in real time now that we're able to make these calculations because we're able to see them and track these kinds of movements. But actual observations have revealed critical discrepancies, throwing scientists for a loop. This ensuing, we're calling it Hubble tension, has inspired many researchers to come up with proposed solutions, but so far, none has been particularly satisfying to the broad scientific community. Now, researchers from the University of Bonn in Germany and St. Andrews in Scotland say they've come up with a clever new solution. This new theory is predicated on recent observations that suggest our solar system is located in a region of space where there's relatively little matter as compared to other corners of the known universe, akin to like an air bubble in a cake. Basically, our galaxy, or our part where we're at, is basically a big void where there are much less things than in other parts of the universe. In more detail, we've got quotes here. Firstly, they got to their conclusion by studying how fast relatively close supernova move away from the Earth. By calculating their speed, the team arrived at an entirely different value for the Hubble limiter constant. Quote, "The universe therefore appears to be expanding faster in our vicinity. That is up to a distance of around 3 billion light years. Let me read this correctly. The universe therefore appears to be expanding faster in our vicinity. That is up to a distance of around 3 billion light years than in its entirety." So around us, stuff is kind of expanding like much faster than outside of a 3 billion light year bubble. Outside of that, it's moving the universe is expanding at a different speed. The conclusion could help explain why astronomers recently observed that there was a local underdensity in our region of space. Quote, "That's why they're moving away from us faster than would actually be expected. The standard model is based on a theory of the nature of gravity put forward by Albert Einstein. However, the gravitational forces may behave differently than Einstein expected." So since the current standard model doesn't account for these sort of bubbles in sort of spaces where there's not as much matter, but for some reason the little bit of matter in those spaces are expanding faster than outside of those spaces, the researchers suggest we should re-examine some fundamental laws that date back over 100 years, which is wild. So as a result, the team has come out in support of modified Newtonian dynamics, quote, which were originally proposed by Israel physicist Mordechai Milgram in 1982. So this theory really, we'll have to do a whole bunch more tests. Like, it'll need to withstand a whole lot of scientific scrutiny in order for the scientific community to really adopt it or respect it. But I assume that as we move forward and more scientific communities get to observe the data or get to deal with what's happening observably and come to the same conclusions, that we will see a change in what gets taught in physics classes and cosmology classes and astrology classes, or astronomy classes in college, etc. It is very interesting though, because for so long, or I should say, outside of what I was going to say, it would be an interesting explainer for why why we haven't been visited yet by more advanced life forms. It would be an interesting explainer to be able to say that, well, the stuff in our region of the universe, our region of the galaxy, our sort of, what was that, 30 or 3? What did he say? How big was the bubble? Let me get it right. Let me get it right or pay the price. I don't know if anybody's unable to get that reference. That's a washed reference, but for my Nickelodeon fans, let's see if y'all can remember what that line comes from. But an air bubble, right? 3 billion, okay, around 3 billion light years. That in this 3 billion light year expanse where we are in the universe, things are so far apart that maybe that's the reason why we haven't been visited by any other intelligent life, because it would be a serious undertaking to hop to other areas because things are so far apart. And it's an interesting thought or interesting theory, because then outside of our bubble, how dense is the universe? Like, how much more closer are celestial bodies outside of our bubble? So who knows, outside of our bubble could be teeming with life, with interstellar travel. And the sounds of New York, y'all. The Popo is outside. How teeming could life outside of our bubble be? And how much space travel could be going on that we just can't see, we just don't notice, because the light of that travel hasn't reached us yet. Wow, what an interesting understanding or an interesting idea. And then to think about it too, if anybody wants to get religious about it, and sort of religious implications or Judeo-Christian implications, just sort of throwing that out there, ascribing to like a creator model, like a god model. Wouldn't that be interesting? That it's like we're sort of in our own kind of terrarium, in our own region in the universe. And so we're dealing with our own little area, independent of everyone else dealing with all of their own areas. And all of their own areas are different than ours. That's a very interesting thought. I'm not going to like try to break down and pontificate too much on it, but just throwing something out there. What do y'all think? What do y'all think about that? An interesting thought. Yeah. Let me know. Like, expand on it, run with it. From the religious aspect and scientifically, how wild that is, and sort of what else does it imply that I may not be seeing? Definitely talk to us in the comments. Let us know what y'all think. Next story. We are talking about SAG-AFTRA. Going into entertainment, we're going into acting. SAG-AFTRA is the actors union, one of the premier, biggest, one of the wider recognized actors unions. There are others, but this is the deal. The headline reads, SAG-AFTRA hit with over 100 COVID vaccine mandate suits by members. Claims are without merit, the guild says. And this is according to Deadline. Yo, they are coming. It's SAG-AFTRA's turn. Now, most legal pundits, after the COVID-19 lockdowns, most legal pundits understood that when all is said and done, and all of the dust settles on the vaccines and on the lockdowns and on the epidemic kind of hysteria, especially, or at least in the United States, that there was going to be a flurry of lawsuits that will sweep across the entire United States. Why? Because of the challenge of the constitutionality of COVID, of a vaccine mandate on all peoples. Why such a challenge would be a thing is because of the idea of mandating. There was sort of things stacked on top of each other, where you have a disease that we don't really know a whole lot about that existed, a disease that really only affected a certain subset of people, or certain people that met certain criteria, that affected them heavily in terms of like mortality rate or very serious illness. And then a vaccine that was rushed into production using technology that is kind of used, but not really, and rushed in to the point that the medical community had to change the definition of what a vaccine is, like Webster's dictionary definition, in order for the drugs that they developed to be able to be labeled legally as a vaccine. Because the original definition of vaccine, according to the original definition of vaccine before they changed it, what we had for COVID did not fall under that criteria. It would have been called something different. And I understand, they want to change that definition to be able to label the drugs that we had for COVID-19 vaccines, because it's more compelling. You're able to get it through legally, to be able to get doctors to administer it. It sort of gives it a sense of legitimacy to call it a vaccine. So they had to change the definition in order to be able to call them vaccines. And then on top of that, like I said, they had to rush it through. CDC was not approved by the CDC, was not approved by the FDA. And in fact, I'm not really going to go too deep into it, but in fact, there is a whole bunch of admissions legally having to do with the FDA and the dealings with the major pharma companies, and how certain of the vaccines were pushed through. There were some lies that had to be said about whether they did the studies or whether they didn't. The numbers of people that they did the studies on, sort of a cover up of certain side effects and certain side effects and long-term side effects as well. Certain increases in percentage of illnesses because of taking them. A lot of that was suppressed, and it's actually coming out now legally. You can type into YouTube these keywords and they will come up. C-SPAN, Court TV, legally. A lot of lawsuits, a lot of things being uncovered through discovery from Pfizer, the FDA, Moderna, all of them, showing various levels of deception. So you had a not approved drug being mandated by most employers, being mandated by the government for people to have in order to be able to take part in different parts of their lives. So a lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of essential workers lost their jobs because they wouldn't get vaccinated. It was really rough. So because of all of that, most legal minds in the United States understood that they're gonna get a slew of lawsuits coming through the court system, challenging the constitutionality, seeking damages. The first responders and the medical community, nurses, EMTs, they really got screwed over the most, I feel. And it was really, they really got did dirty, where they were really out there still working during the lockdowns and essentially dealing with people fully COVIDed out, and just trying to help people. And then when the time came with the vaccines, even though it was probably or most likely that they had gained a level of immunity, most who were exposed to it, most medical personnel like EMTs and first responders and nurses, medical personnel in the hospital indoors, were probably exposed to it and came out of it, and have a strong enough immune system to deal with it, of all people, because they weren't locked away and shut in. They still had to come to work because the hospital still had to work and they were getting overrun. So they needed personnel. They just kind of got screwed over with those mandates, and so many where they were being called and hailed as heroes during the lockdowns and honored, and moments of silence and banging drums and gongs outside of your house and pots in solidarity for those who are putting themselves in harm's way for a disease that we didn't know a whole lot about. When the vaccines came and it was cool to mandate it. Thank you, Fauci. Thank you, Biden administration, and a bunch of others. other actors, it became cool or part of the agenda to mandate them. And if you didn't take them, you were vilified or they tried to strong arm you. They tried to turn your peers against you and to look at you as less than because you didn't take it, just to get you to take it. A lot of these medical personnel lost their jobs and then were called the disease or the spread of a pandemic of COVID was then called like a pandemic of the unvaccinated. So like we're vilifying the people who we called heroes that for all intents and purposes were probably immune because of herd immunity. I told them you got to take it even though you've been exposed to it for 10 months, day in and day out. So you probably have built up an immunity to it. We need you to take this or else you lost your job, even though you were a hero and came in and did all of that overtime and risked your life to try to help the people. They got screwed over the most, in my opinion. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. But anyway, we're here with SAG-AFTRA. The lawsuits, the wave of lawsuits about the constitutionality, etc., seeking damages because of losing jobs and so on, because of the COVID vaccines, the COVID mandates, it's now SAG-AFTRA's turn. So we got, let's see, let me try to get to the nitty gritty. Over 100 individual suits placed in the LA Superior Court docket Thursday claimed the guild threw members under corporate buses during the height of the pandemic, essentially linking arms with the studios to require vaccinations to work. Right? So we know that. Now here's the quote here. While defendants are plaintiffs' union representatives, SAG-AFTRA members had a right to expect that its union would protect them, negotiate with the studios, producers, and other hiring officials on their behalf to prevent prejudicial treatment for exerting their philosophical, religious, medical, or disability-based reason for not taking the COVID-19 vaccine. And this is a stuntman and guild member, Dorian Kinji, in his jury trial seeking filing. And that was what, yesterday? No, this is today at 2 p.m. Right? So then he goes, Kinji's action, because this is a class action lawsuit. So there's 103 complainants from the union members that are attached to this as well. Quote, adding insult to injury, assuming SAG-AFTRA were a public/government and not private actor, similar to California law, which requires students attending public or private school be vaccinated against certain named and identified infectious diseases, SAG-AFTRA was allowing its signatories, production companies and studios, to forcibly impose vaccination requirements and mandates in exchange for a union member's ability to work, receive an audition, maintain management, maintain an agent, work with talent agencies, etc. So it was a 21-page suit for breach of fiduciary. So the lawsuit is for breach of fiduciary duty negligence and 4 other claims, but they don't list the 4 other claims here. A quote, thus, SAG-AFTRA members were forced to choose between their financial livelihood, breaking the law to obtain a falsified vaccination card, or adhering to the acceptance of a foreign, not yet CDC approved vaccine and boosters in their bodies against their will. The suits are looking for a plethora of damages and injunctive relief. They also want court orders for a full accounting and compelling SAG-AFTRA as the fiduciary to plaintiff and found to have breached their fiduciary duties to plaintiff to restore all losses to plaintiff which resulted from the breaches of fiduciary duty or by virtue of liability. I don't know how they're going to get those damages, even if they win. I don't know what that even looks like. That's super broad because you're an actor. Maybe you didn't get a background gig. Like, do they have to then give you a background gig, or would they have to go through or I guess they got to go through the work of calculating how much money one would have made from whatever gig that they were denied for because they were unvaccinated, I guess. Meaning it's not a straightforward thing, like getting damages if they were to win. Now SAG-AFTRA says, been there, done that, going there again. The claims, quote, this is SAG-AFTRA now, the claims are without merit and SAG-AFTRA will seek their dismissal. The union has already defended and obtained dismissal for other charges brought against it before the National Labor Relations Board relating to the return to work. Quote, "We believe in the strength of our cases, look forward to litigating the issues, eager to find justice for our clients, and believe we will be victorious." Plaintiff's attorney, Brayon J. Davis, said to Deadline after the filings Thursday. Now, we've already got like percentages, or the way they used to do it was that they divided it into zones on set. I was working during that time, not, lockdowns. There was a point where everything was locked down, even Hollywood productions, all of it, TV went dark. But when it came back, I was working at that time as well. And, we had for those, which were all of them, for those productions that had COVID rules, often if it was the first time you worked on that production, you were put on a meeting call with a bunch of other people about what the rules are. You were given certain trainings, automated trainings that you had to go through and answer questions for, test, etc., just to make sure that you knew what the deal was on set. Then when you got on set, you were masked up the whole time. If you didn't have a mask, then they would provide you a mask. At one point, they were giving out N95 masks only. Depending on the production, they would have N95 masks for everybody. Some productions would have you do cloth masks. Some productions would have you do the surgical masks. But a lot of them did the N95s. Like if you didn't bring your own N95, they had a box there at the PA when you came to check in, so that you could do what you needed to do. And you just wore that all the time. You wore it all the time until, except when you were outside and until you got on camera. I mean, you wore it on the set, taking your place to be ready, lights, camera, action, rolling, action, on the set until they were ready to shoot. Everybody was in their places, etc. They're ready to have a go of it. They would they would let everybody know, okay, masks down. You would take your mask off. Action, Blanc, do the scene, and then mask back on after the cut. That's how it would generally go. The actors who, if you were a main actor, sometimes they would wear masks, but usually not, because they have makeup that they have on. So they would do like a face mask, often a face mask not on the forehead, but placed around their neck, so upside down, and it would just be up like this, and that's what they would wear in between often. But yeah, and then you had crew that would wear masks, and depending on what production you were on, sometimes the crew would walk around with no mask on. And it was kind of trash sometimes, because the crew who needed to, the mandate, or at least the rules were that the crew has to have a mask on. Sometimes they would just walk around with no mask. But then us as the actors, sometimes I was background, sometimes I was core, sometimes I was featured. We had to have our masks on in between. Like, they would be upset at us. They would talk to us. They would call us aside, or they would send us home. Meanwhile, there were members of the crew that would just walk around like, oh, no, we're good. So it's kind of trash too. I really didn't like that. I didn't like that time. It was so uncomfortable having those masks on all day, itching. It was just, especially N95s, over time. I mean, you could be on set for 10 hours, for 12 hours, for 13 hours, like on the clock, and have to wear these masks. It was not fun. Let me tell you something. But, all in the spirit of having the good intention of wanting to not spread COVID, even though everybody at that time, everybody that was on the set had to have, or everyone that got cast had to have had a COVID test to be able to get on set. So then when the vaccines came, there were vaccine mandates. You had to be vaccinated. You had to have a test before you got in, and a negative test, and you still had to wear a mask. And then some productions would do, you have to be vaccinated, or when the boosters came out, vaccinated and at least one booster. COVID test before you got there, and that means like days before. And then when you did get there, some had tests that day. So you took a quick test and you weren't able to go to wardrobe and hair and makeup until you had your quick test done. And that came back and said, you're good, you're negative. And then you can think those were all the layers that would exist. Max layers was testing before you ever got to the day, testing before the shoot day, testing on the shoot day, mask all the time, and make sure that you're vaccinated and you're boosted. That was maximum. And then they all like had their different variations and gradients of what that was. It was a lot of hoops to jump through, but you got to make your money. You got to do what you got to do. Let me tell you though, I'm sure there were plenty of people, not I'm sure, because during the end of that COVID time, there were a bunch of stories of whole COVID vaccination card falsification. And there were nurses and so on involved in selling fake cards that would say that you had such and such a vaccination. And I mean, scandals so deep that no one even really publicized it crazy, but it was on the news of the one that was, I don't know if it was a Long Island one, but they would do the cards, sell the cards, and the main buyers of them, of this instance, was the police department. So there's a mad cops that were out here, no vaccination, not boosted, straight lying, straight up. But anyway, I could talk more about it. I thought about talking about the wondering if y'all caught the red state blue versus blue state debate on Fox News, because that was amazing. Ron DeSantis did a very good job, was very forthright in his information, and was very accurate. Everything that he quoted, all of the stats were 100% spot on, accurate, according to, Census Bureau, CDC, what the news coverage was. Like, it was just accurate. It wasn't about like a right-wing think tank's information or study. It wasn't about, nope. He had facts and statistics from absolutely recognized organizations that he quoted in that debate, and his points were the most cogent of the two. And he answered every single question and straightforward too. Even sort of the crosstalk that Gavin Newsom gave him that was outside of the question, he would hit that too and hit it hard. You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm not saying I'm like a Ron DeSantis dick rider. That's not me. I'm very much so. I think if I had to categorize myself, it changes depending, but I'm somewhere in the middle, with a little bit of left things. Like, it's not quite in the middle leaning left, and I'm not quite in the middle leaning right. I'm in the middle, and both sides have really great points. And I think there are points within both sides, because we have such a two-party system. There are points in both sides of the spectrum that can absolutely work together and coincide. So I'm that kind of a moderate. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm on another level. We could talk about that more on the Patreon, which is coming soon, y'all. Please subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. This is a good time to take a breather, sit down, like and subscribe. I've got 2 more stories left. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this SAG-AFTRA thing. But what do y'all think? What do y'all think about the mandates? Do you think that they were 100% constitutionally valid? Do you think it was something that was handled properly in terms of like, we get drugs that have to get rushed in to try to help people, but they want to lie and kind of call them vaccines, but then they're like, well, we can't lie and call them vaccines, so let's change the definition of vaccine so we can call them vaccines. So technically we're not lying. Technically they are vaccines, but really the way that they work isn't actually like a classical vaccine. You think that was cool? You think that was cool to kind of screw over the medical community by and large? Just what do y'all think about it? Let me know. It's a good time to have a breather, take a drink of water. I wish I had some next to me. I did not think to get a drink. Okay, now Imagine, right? Soon we're gonna have commercial breaks that are actually like the sponsor of the show. And hey, if any of y'all want to sponsor an episode, get at your boy. You can get at me in the DMs of social media. You can get at me in the comments. You know, you can email us, the socialmillenialpodcast@gmail.com. So if anybody out there wants to sponsor an episode, let me know. We will do your ad read. You guys have something to advertise. We can absolutely do so. And it will be anything. I'm absolutely a very eclectic nigga. So, I mean, y'all got a tattoo parlor y'all wanna rep? Tats Crew, call me up. You know, y'all got a church event that y'all want me to rep, let me know. I will absolutely do that. On that side note, all right, and we'll talk what that price is. But you know, the time will come. We'll get there. All right, so SAG-AFTRA. My thoughts on this. I don't think that they're gonna win. I don't think that this lawsuit is gonna. I think it's gonna get dismissed. And I think it's going to get dismissed not on the grounds of it being wrong necessarily. I think the defense might argue dismissal off of the idea that that SAG-AFTRA and the studios, etc., are working in the private sector. I think the judge is probably going to categorize them there and not as government/public entities, public sector. And I think that's where the whole thing's going to fall apart. It's going to get dismissed, I think, predicated on those grounds. So once they put it there that they're private, then it's like, well, they're private. They can do whatever they want to do. They're not public. They're not government, SAG-AFTRA. So they're not the same as a school, as a public school. So yeah, I think it's going to get thrown away. I don't think it's going to go anywhere predicated on that. Like, it's not going to get to any kind of oral arguments. It's not going to get to a jury. It's not going to get to it's not going to get to anything like that. Discovery, nothing. The judge is going to look at it and it's just going to be gone off of that. Now, I wanted to say initially that it's going to be gone because it's in LA, because it's in a predominantly left-leaning city, left-leaning judges, because believe you me, the most danger that politicization has done and can do as a recent trend in our society is in the judicial system, is in the judiciary. It's not the presidency, and it's not infecting the presidency. It's not infecting Congress or the House of Representatives. It's the judiciary. When you get highly politicized judges, when you get judges who are not using their seat or their position in a manner that is, or serving their oath in a manner that is seeking to be impartial and genuine, seeking to adjudicate the law and judge fairly. When you get judges who are not about that, and they're more so about, they judge or have become judges because they want to hurt a certain political party or they want to represent a certain political agenda, dangerous, because what is right may not get done. And that has to do with right-leaning judges and left-leaning judges. So y'all don't think that I'm on some nonsense. Both sides, politicization in general. And so LA is one of the most politicized districts, those districts. The most politicized districts in the United States is in New York. Most legal pundits will assert, and you can go on YouTube, you can look this up, will assert that what the Southern District of New York is the most politicized, and politicized towards the left. So at first I was going to go, oh, okay, it's going to get thrown out or dismissed because they're trying this case in LA. They're filing the lawsuit in Los Angeles. Left-leaning, judges are going to be left-leaning. They're not going to like what you're doing because whenever anybody, the media has effectively MK Ultra'd the public to that. If anybody talks about the mask mandates or the vaccine mandates being unconstitutional, which they were, on their face, they are. Now, there's other mitigating factors that we can talk about that kind of flavor it, but on its face, just straight what it is, they're actually unconstitutional. And you don't have to take my word for it. You can go online. There's legal about it that supports it, and not left or right leaning legal, just legal that supports it. The MK Ultra, the public enough, the mainstream media, that anybody who talks mask mandates or whatever mandates being unconstitutional are then labeled as like whatever pejorative of the day is meant to vilify and minimize that person's or that entity's validity. So you go to a left leaning state or a left leaning district, and you have a left leaning judge. More often than not, MK Ultraing, they're gonna, because they want to stand for what the agenda is for their own personal reasons, for whatever reason. They're just gonna go, this sounds like it's right wing evil. You're wrong. Dismiss. Often that's what happens. That happens a lot in the Southern District of New York as well, and you can look it up. There's a lot of legal precedent for that. A lot of legal precedent in terms of motivation. But no, I wanted to say that, but no. They predicated their lawsuit, this lawsuit filing, this class action, predicated on the idea that SAG-AFTRA productions, studios, etc., producers or whatever, production companies are, it's predicated on them being government/public entities in the public sector, not private. But I understand them to be private. So I think this is going to be gone based off the law. It's going to be gone. They're going to go, what do you mean they're public? They're not really public. And I don't think they probably in the filing didn't adequately prove whether or not they're a government/public sector. Because I feel like they would have to do that. I don't know why the law firm/lawyer allowed it to go through that way with that wording. It is a 21-page lawsuit. So maybe I haven't read the entire thing. So maybe they do put it in there, but they would need to, because they're going to have to make a compelling argument. Firstly, that SAG-AFTRA, that the union and the production companies and studios are public. They have to make that, and the judge is going to have to buy that to then be able to move forward and maybe not dismiss the case. But I think it's going to get dismissed. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. Let me know what y'all think, though. Let me know what y'all think. Our next story, Biden nonsense. Now, we all already know, I don't know about which one of y'all niggas voted for Biden, but people voted for Biden. As much as anyone wants to talk about what happened with that election, that could be a whole Patreon episode. I will talk about that in Patreon behind the paywall. Not out here in the wild. At least not in 4K. Biden did win, and niggas voted for him. So I blame y'all. I know Trump had said it, and y'all kind of don't want to hear it right now. You know, I say the word Trump, and everybody wants to, again, MK Ultra. Their head wants to explode. But my nigga Trump said it when he said "Sleepy Uncle Joe." He said "Sleepy Uncle Joe," and my niggas out here slurring every other word in front of world leaders. My niggas out here getting everybody's name wrong, even Kamala Harris, even though he's dealt with her for how long now? Day to day. He still calls her Kamala. Crazy. Oh, by the way, as a little backtrack, I'm going to, off of my tangent, I'm going to include the video, a little commentary video of the red state, blue state debate held on Fox News between Ron DeSantis and Gavin Newsom. I'm going to put a link down there. I recommend y'all watch that commentary. It is absolute chef's kiss. Gavin Newsom was lying about everything. It was crazy. He would not answer a single question that was asked of him. So you think you're going to be red state versus blue state. This is the time to show for Gavin Newsom to now be on that kind of a platform and show how all of y'all red state niggas is trash. What we're doing over here in California is working. This is why it's working. This is why it's going to work, right? A meeting of the minds, a genuine debate. Gavin Newsom pulled up in a disingenuous way, rolling his eyes, deer in headlights. He went between rolling his eyes and a deer in headlights. That's the look on his face, because he had nothing. He had no stats. He had no arguments. And when he didn't have an argument, he would just attack Ron DeSantis, trying to insinuate like that he hates women, or trying to insinuate that he's racist or something. Like it was absurd. Or he would offer or make an assertion that was patently false and patently absurd, because what they would do, which is which is very great, what they did for this debate, and the person running the debate, I think it was Hannity, they would, before asking the question or in the middle of asking the question, they would put on the screen the stats of whatever they're asking. So like they had a question, for example, about having Gavin Newsom explain to the people, or answer the question of why was there and is there a mass exodus of people out of California into the red states. And when I say it's mass exodus, I mean 750,000 people left in droves. They left in literal droves. There was a point where U-Haul, there was a run on U-Haul trucks and U-Haul vans and U-Haul pickups and everything in between, because so many people were leaving at the same time. You couldn't get a U-Haul to move. You couldn't get a moving truck. So as an example, that would be the question, like, why has there been a mass exodus? And then they would put on your screen for the public and everybody to see, and them in the studio, the official U.S. Census Bureau data in a nice graph according to the U.S. Census Bureau between this and this. So you had the data in front of you, nationally recognized body, data taking body, the U.S. Census. And Gavin Newsom would not answer the question. He would then deflect it to a point that doesn't make any sense, or to a point that was wrong, that was not all the way truthful. In that instance, I think he instead of like clearly directing to the people, well, this is because of this and this and this, he goes, well, why don't you tell me why more people are, or do you mean that more people are leaving Florida to go to California than there are people from California going to live in Florida? He would argue with Hannity running the debate back and forth, because Hannity tries to get him like, okay, you said all of that. Now you still haven't answered the question. Can you please answer the question? You still haven't answered the question. Can you please answer the question? And then Hannity would have to move on because of time. And he's like, you clearly don't want to answer the question, so we're going to have to move on. Like, it was so embarrassing. And Newsom was there with his smile and his smirk. Anyway, watch the video. Like, I'm not going to go into it. Watch it. I'm telling you, y'all are going to enjoy it. I know a lot of people don't like Ron DeSantis. I don't really like the way Ron DeSantis sort of speaks, like his not vernacular, but he's not the most eloquent person. And I also don't like that he's not really good at regulating his facial expressions. Like, he doesn't necessarily carry himself in the most presidential, with an air of power and an air of respect and honor. He's sort of like, I don't know, it's weird. And you'll see it in the video that I put in the description regarding the commentary on the debate, because whenever they would answer questions, after the question was asked, they would just show both of them, a shot of both of them. And so you would get to see the reaction of the person who was not talking. And Newsom does better at keeping himself sort of neutral faced, or sort of, not quite reacting within himself, and just, still looking good on camera. Ron DeSantis is the opposite. You kind of see there's like things going on in his head, and he makes these strange facial expressions that are just hard to look at for me. So I don't really like that. But Ron DeSantis has been, in terms of track record, has been a really good governor to Florida. And I know a lot of people don't like to talk about that. A lot of people don't like to think that way. But in terms of pure politics and him going in and doing exactly what he said he was going to do during his campaign, he has accomplished that. I think in the history of Florida, he is like the most, not decorated. He's gotten the most done in Florida in a very long time. On various issues, he's gotten the legislature to come together and really vote on things and get things done and agree. So I'm not a dick writer. You know, all these guys have pros and cons. They're all politicians. So they're all like trained liars. They're all meant to try to convince you of stuff. And, you know, no one's going to be perfect. This is just kind of the system that we're in right now, the system that we have. So it's like the shinier of two turds. Like, no one is going to be perfect. No one has a perfect background. No one makes the perfect decisions. We're all human. We all have things that are that influence our decisions within ourselves and our upbringing and so on. So I'm not a dick writer of anybody. You know, everyone's going to say stupid things and do stupid things at some point. We just hope that if they're in power, they don't do that many stupid things. You feel me? So anyway, moving on. Biden. We're going to move a little fast now. On some nonsense. Biden will sign an executive order. This is according to NBC News. Biden will sign an executive order on federal funding for Native Americans, right? Interesting headline. When I read that, I was like, okay, federal funding for Native Americans, for the reservations or whatever they get or what have you. The byline, the subtitle, the order will be unveiled on the first day of an annual summit when Biden is expected to address Native American leaders gathered in Washington. Now, here's what it really is. President Joe Biden will sign an executive order on Wednesday during a tribal nation summit that aims to make it easier for Native Americans to access federal funding that have greater autonomy over how to invest those funds. Here's the quote. According to Neera Tanden, the White House domestic policy advisor, tribal nations still face unacceptable barriers to fully exercising their inherent sovereignty. And really, too often, that occurs because of the way we are administering federal funding programs. I don't even think I need to talk too much about it in terms of this article. But historically, let's say this. This is not a quote. I think it is, but they didn't quote it in the article. Historically, Tanden said federal policies attacked Native people's rights to self-governance and caused lasting economic damage. The Biden administration is working to undo that damage. The order in part creates a clearinghouse for Native American tribes to find and access federal funding, and it requests that federal agencies ensure that funding is accessible and equitable. So now here's another quote. Yes, there are parts of our history that are painful, but there are also those that we celebrate and that show our resilience, strength, and our contributions, said Interior Secretary Deb Haaland, a member of the Pueblo of Laguna. The Department of the Interior is also working on final revisions to a rule overhauling how human remains, funerary objects, and sacred objects are repatriated. The new rule streamlined the requirements for museums. Okay, y'all can read the rest of this article. Leaders have complained. Okay. Anyway. So my point here, or not my point here, but what I think about this and why I'm saying this is Biden on some nonsense / the Biden administration on some nonsense, because my train of thought is that Biden is basically a puppet president that was installed. An installed puppet president, so he kind of just says what they want him to say. It's just a figurehead, just Kermit the Frog. There's someone else really, or the cabinet or whoever really running this. Why I say it's Biden on some nonsense, the Biden administration on some nonsense, is because it's a little sort of cheeky. It's a little cheeky to be able to say that tribal nations still face unacceptable barriers to fully exercising their inherent sovereignty, and really, too often that occurs because of the way we are administering federal funding programs. And I call BS, because it doesn't happen because of the way that the United States are the way that the United States are administering federal funding programs. It's because the United States needs to annex land to the Native Americans to give them their own nation, their own national sovereignty. It's wild. Like, I see this type of thing going on, these type of executive orders, as box checks. You know, Biden is we're approaching the end of his first term, and they need a win. They need something in the win column, because right now they're looking real bad. Bidenomics is real bad. When y'all got niggas out here in the Bronx talking that they're voting Trump, talking bring Trump back, and it exists, go online, there's news coverage, interviews, boots on the ground on Fordham, and they're not afraid to say it. The consensus here is that we need Trump back. Now, you know, niggas out here are definitely like, yeah, he says some wild stuff, but he just says some wild stuff. The stuff that he did, his actions, helped everybody. And so that's basically what they're standing on. Like, when Trump was in office, my I had money in my pocket. My life wasn't as hard as it is now. Inflation wasn't crazy like this. Gas prices weren't crazy like this. So they're basically standing on that. I mean, you got niggas out here talking about free my nigga Trump, get him out of, you know what I'm saying? Get him out of court, all of that jazz. So the Biden administration sees this and how they were trying to really push Bidenomics, like, oh, it's good. We're fine. We're going to be okay. You know, and when President Biden is confronted in interviews or big interviews for CNN, et cetera, big sit downs, and they ask him about it, he goes, oh, well, you know, it stayed stable right here, you know, and the guy's like, but I want to know what you think about it going up as high as it did. It's as high as it's ever been. Oh, no, but you know, it's flatlined. It's like, they don't even want to answer the questions. They just want to go Bidenomics, love it. It's great. So I say that this is trash and very disingenuous and very like, it's almost like a backhand, because really, if y'all want to put y'all money where y'all mouth is in terms of like intersectionality, in terms of the intersectionally woke agenda kind of deal, because that's what that sounded like, you would take states, a whole chunk, and say, this is your lands, and you get to manage it, you get to run it, and you will do commerce with the United States as your own sovereign country. And if y'all want to become a state of the United States, then we can integrate you as a state of the United States, or some form of Commonwealth, etc., and you can have delegation in Congress and in the House of Representatives based on your population. That would be the way to get rid of tribal nations facing unacceptable barriers to fully exercising their inherent sovereignty. Let them exercise their inherent sovereignty fully. The only person or only people standing in their way is the American government. And in this kind of measure to like, oh, we're going to free up more federal funding, or we're going to make it so that you can apply for more federal funding or what have you, you're still acting as that barrier to allowing this nation to get up off of its knees and regroup itself, preserve its culture, unify, and be who they ought to be. The government itself continues to keep them at level 5 when they could be at level 10. The government goes, no, we don't need that. Go live on your reservations. Here's some money to sort of reparation you, and go open casinos so that we can get some tax money or something. Thank you. But don't talk to us about being free. Don't talk to us about becoming a nation and being respected or observed or honored as a sovereign entity within the United States borders. No. You're good. But we'll still say, a whole tribal nation still face unacceptable barriers. We'll still gaslight, basically. We'll still gaslight you, still gaslight you. And so to me, it's stop the gaslighting. Stop it. And it seems more and more that it's like on the left a lot. And not that gaslighting is a thing reserved only for anybody can gaslight. Anybody who doesn't want to take an L gaslights. But we've been seeing it more and more on the left more often than we see it on the right. That's all I'm saying. They seem to be more bold to gaslight on live TV in 4K, like my guy Eric Adams. And we're gonna segue into Eric Adams. Here we go. I got choice words from my nigga Eric Adams, but I'm not gonna, I'll save that for the Patreon. You feel me? I'm not gonna get explicit on the YouTube. According to the Gothamist, Mayor Adams vows to remove parking spots from 1,000 NYC intersections every year. It's bad enough we already have congestion pricing and tolls going through a big mid chunk of Manhattan. Now this dude wants to take away parking spots. He's already going to take away parking spots to put those big public bins out. Remember, he had that plan so that we can try to fight against the rat problem. New York City plans to reduce parking spots at 1,000 intersections every year to protect pedestrians from drivers, Mayor Eric Adams said on Thursday. The announcement comes as Adams faces mounting criticism for abandoning his ambitious campaign. His ambitious campaign pledges to improve street safety for pedestrians, cyclists, and public transit users. It also comes after a string of recent traffic deaths across the city, including those of a 3-year-old boy who was killed by a driver in Queens in a hit and run Wednesday night, and 7-year-old Kamari Hughes, whom an NYPD tow truck driver struck and killed in Brooklyn last month. Quote, "It is imperative that we take the right steps in the right direction on how we're going to ensure this stops," Adams said, referring to the Queens crash. The new measure, known as daylighting, aims to improve drivers' visibility when they make turns. The Department of Transportation officials said the city has daylit roughly 400 of the city's 40,000 intersections, or about 1%, since Adams took office at the start of 2022. The city also announced the expansion of a pilot program to install intelligent speed sensors in city vehicles, such as school buses and non-emergency NYPD cars. The sensors are supposed to stop drivers from exceeding the speed limit. That's fine. We can skip over that. No, we're good. According to DOT data, more than 225 people were killed in local traffic crashes this year, including 82 pedestrians and 27 cyclists. That's a pretty low number. More than 225? What's the exact number? More than 225? How many people are in New York City? Like 8 million? 9 million? That means is that less than 1%? Am I bugging? Am I bugging right now? Y'all do the math for me. I know that's a crazy low percentage. What percentage of that out of 8 million, 9 million is 225? I feel like that's like 1%, 0.1%, 0.01, something like that. That's the death that we've had so far. Fatalities to cars. You would think that we've had that it's an epidemic of car crashes killing people across the city. A little more than 225 out of 8 million. I think that's a win, because at the end of the day, people are going to be dumb. People are going to be stupid. At the end of the day, accidents are going to happen. Like one of those car accidents that was in the article. The 3-year-old, I think, not the little girl that got hit by the tow truck. The other boy. I went and read the story about that. It was not apparent, according to the article, it was not yet apparent whether the parents or the parent of that child was with that child when that child got hit. So stupidity? Maybe. People not making sense? Maybe. Someone getting distracted? Maybe. Someone walking around with their kid outside of their hands and the kid runs across the street? Maybe. Negligence? Maybe. Are there problem areas in New York City? Yes, with speeding, etc. Yeah. But by and large, do we need to continue to take out parking spaces, considering that the city is not building like city owned or public parking lots or parking complexes for vehicles? It's just been a war on cars. So that what? And I think I've said it before, a war on cars, because they're trying their damnedest to eliminate parking spaces. A war on cars to get people to what? Take public transportation? And the MTA is behind in all of their construction? The technology is not there. I mean, it rains a little bit and the system can't handle rain. To bloat the system with a million other riders. And then let me tell you this, because I've seen these little daylight corners. It ain't all that. Because what happens is they try to be cute with it, and they'll eliminate parking spots on the intersection corner, right? On the intersection corner. And they'll put whatever white little stick things there so that people know not to drive on it, that it's not a parking spot. They won't leave it clear usually, so that it will serve its function in that you can see the cars that are coming earlier, and the cars coming can also see you earlier. What they do is that they'll have a plane, and the picture in the article, you'll see what I'm talking about, which is wild that they used that picture. They'll take it away. They'll put the little asphalt or whatever on it, turf on it, and they'll put they'll try to use it as a beautification spot. So they'll sometimes put bike racks in that space. They'll put big potted plant fixtures in that space. So it's like, what was the point of getting rid of the parking space for us to be able to see the cars and the cars be able to see us, but we now can't see the cars and the cars can't see us? Like, why put another barrier between where they can't see if that was the whole point? Because it's just a war on cars. They're trying to get rid of vehicles. And maybe somewhere, some pipe dream for people to adopt electric vehicles, which are in the decline. People are not using electric vehicles like that. They're not buying into it. So much so that I think Elon is starting to rework the technology to be able to manufacture them cheaper, so that it can be accessible to more people. Especially given in inflation, stuff is wild right now. But it doesn't make any sense. It's not for the purpose that they're saying. It's not really to help in people in doing car accidents, because by their logic, no matter what, if there's 1 or 2 accidents out of 8 million, oh no, we have to get cars off the road. Oh no, the speed limit has to be 15 miles an hour in the city now. So like, when does it end? When do we chalk it up to people just sometimes not being smart? When do we chalk it up to there actually just being car accidents? Speed limit in the city is 25. And car accidents and deaths have gone down. They have not gone up. So 225 or a little bit over 225 out of 8 million, that's a win. But they're trying to convince everybody, nah, that's way too many. One life is way too many. So then they're constantly under the guise and the excuse of one life is way too many, or the guise and the excuse of we want to help people and save people. We're not going to make all of y'all lives harder in service of this thing that we say we're saving people from. That doesn't really exist. We're just kind of making y'all lives harder so that we can institute whatever agenda that we got to institute, and sort of institute our social engineering that we need to. Trash. But what do y'all think? What do y'all think in the comments about this? I know most New Yorkers are not with Eric Adams. Most Americans are not with Biden either. He's doing the worst that any president, I think, has ever done in the history of the presidency in terms of polls since we've been taking polls. And these are not even like right-wing polls. These are CNN polls. Biden is like 30% approval. It's crazy. But anyway, I hope that y'all have a great year, or have had a great year. I'm glad for your blessings. I'm glad for your life, for you being here with us. You know, pour one out for all my niggas who didn't make it this far. I really only wish upon y'all the best, and in 2024, as we go into it, you know, bang, 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 more money, houses, you know, more discernment, more love, more happiness, more compassion, more empathy, more sympathy, more love towards one another in 2024. And, hopefully we just can take the lessons that we learned in 2023 and really discipline ourselves to implement them in 2024. All right, y'all. Have a great rest of the year. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa. And Happy New Year and Happy Three Kings Day, in case we're not back before then. Hopefully, we've got stuff working in the background. There is a Patreon coming soon. We will be putting these episodes will not go behind a paywall. I will be offering bonus episodes behind the paywall for the Patreon. I will be offering extra added content. So things like movie reviews, video game reviews, movie commentaries. We could do watch-alongs. We can do. I'll be doing deep dive videos. I'll be doing rant videos, so you guys will really get to know what my opinions are. And then I'll leave it open too. There will be content that I will leave open to you guys to want to contribute. That will be behind a paywall. I won't charge $1.5 million because I already know that Netflix is charging $1.5 million and the rest of them, and they're talking about the prices going up. So don't worry, I'm not going to be out here breaking the bank, but there will be a greater amount of content, a lot more fun stuff behind that paywall. But these weekly episodes are going to stay free. All right, y'all. But that's getting built in the background. I will definitely be announcing that well in advance before it drops. All right, y'all. So have a great rest of your winter. Enjoy your gifts. Enjoy the gift of life if you have it. Be grateful for those that you have. Be thankful for what you have, whether it be little or whether it be great. All right, y'all. God bless. Be blessed. Deuces.